Nestled in the harbor of Long Beach, California, the RMS Queen Mary stands as a monument to a bygone era of luxury and grandeur. Once a glittering jewel of the seas, this majestic ocean liner carried the elite across the Atlantic in the 1930s. Its decks alive with the clinking of champagne glasses and the laughter of the wealthy. But beneath its polished veneer lies a darker history, one of tragedy, mystery, and restless spirits. Welcome to World Mysteries, where we dive into the chilling tale of the Queen Mary, a ship that some say is not just a relic of the past, but a vessel still haunted by those who never left its decks. Launched in 1934 by the Cunard Line, the Queen Mary was a marvel of engineering and elegance. Stretching nearly 1,020 feet, she was a floating palace, boasting Art Deco interiors, grand ballrooms, and cabins fit for royalty. She carried Hollywood stars like Clark Gable, political giants like Winston Churchill, and countless others who sought the prestige of crossing the Atlantic in unparalleled luxury. But her reign as a luxury liner was short-lived. When World War II erupted, the Queen Mary was transformed into a troop ship, painted in drab gray and nicknamed the Gray Ghost. She ferried thousands of soldiers across perilous waters, her speed making her a difficult target for enemy submarines. Yet, even in her wartime service, whispers of strange occurrences began to surface. Crew members reported unexplained noises, creaks and groans that seemed to come from nowhere. Passengers spoke of fleeting shadows in empty corridors. Some dismissed these as the stress of war, but others wondered if the ship was already collecting secrets that would linger long after the guns fell silent. The Queen Mary's history is steeped in tragedy, each incident leaving an indelible mark on her steel frame. One of the most infamous events occurred in October 1942, during her wartime service. While zigzagging through the Atlantic to evade U-boat attacks, the Queen Mary collided with her escort ship, the HMS Curacoa, a light cruiser carrying 439 men. The Queen Mary's massive bow sliced through the smaller vessel like a knife through butter, splitting it in two. The cruiser sank in minutes, and the Queen Mary, under strict wartime orders, did not stop to rescue survivors. Over 300 men perished in the icy waters, their cries swallowed by the sea. Crew members later reported hearing anguished screams echoing through the ship's hull at night, as if the lost souls of the Curacoa were still calling for help. The collision left a scar on the Queen Mary's bow, and some say, on her very soul. Other tragedies followed. In her years as a troop ship, the Queen Mary carried up to 15,000 soldiers at a time, packed into every corner of the ship. Overcrowding led to accidents. A young soldier crushed in a watertight door during a drill, a cook scalded to death in a kitchen mishap, and countless others who succumbed to illness or injury in the cramped, chaotic conditions. Each death seemed to seep into the ship's walls, as if the Queen Mary herself was absorbing the pain of those who suffered aboard her. By the time the Queen Mary retired from service in 1967 and was permanently docked in Long Beach, her reputation as a haunted ship was already growing. The crew who worked her final voyages spoke of strange phenomena: lights flickering in empty rooms, footsteps echoing in deserted hallways, and an oppressive feeling that someone or something was always watching. When the ship opened as a tourist attraction and hotel, the stories only multiplied, drawing paranormal investigators, thrill-seekers, and skeptics alike. One of the most famous spirits aboard the Queen Mary is the Lady in White, a spectral figure often seen gliding through the ship's first-class lounge. Dressed in a flowing white gown, she appears to dance alone to music no one else can hear, her movements graceful but eerily silent. Witnesses describe her as beautiful yet sorrowful, her eyes fixed on some distant point. Some believe she is the ghost of a young woman who danced in that very lounge during the ship's golden years, perhaps meeting a tragic end on board. Others speculate she was a passenger who never made it to shore, her spirit bound to the ship she loved. Guests staying in the nearby cabins report hearing soft sobs or the faint strains of a piano in the dead of night. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, in the lounge, with whispers pleading, "Don't leave me," or simply, "Stay." Who was she, and why does she linger? The answer remains one of the Queen Mary's many mysteries. The ship's second-class swimming pool, now drained and closed to the public, is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Visitors report hearing the laughter of children, the splash of water, and the sound of running feet, even though the pool has been dry for decades. The most chilling accounts involve sightings of two young girls, often seen holding hands and wearing old-fashioned dresses. They giggle and beckon to visitors, only to vanish when approached. Records suggest that at least 2 children drowned in the pool during the ship's active years, their deaths quietly noted in the ship's logs. Could these be their spirits, forever playing in the place where their lives ended? Some guests claim to feel a sudden chill near the pool, as if the air itself is heavy with grief. Others have reported seeing wet footprints leading from the pool to the changing rooms, only to find the trail ends abruptly at a blank wall. Perhaps the most infamous haunting centers on the ship's engine room, specifically near watertight door 13. In 1966, a young fireman named John Petter, just 18 years old, was crushed to death in the door during a routine drill. His death was ruled an accident, but the details remain murky. Some say the door closed too quickly, others whisper of foul play. Since then, door 13 has become a focal point for paranormal activity. Workers and visitors report seeing a young man in overalls, his face pale and his eyes wide with fear, standing near the door before vanishing. Tools left in the engine room are often found moved or missing, and the sound of metal clanging echoes through the space, even when no one is present. EVP recordings have captured a male voice saying, "I'm sorry," or "Help me," fueling speculation that John Petter's spirit is trapped in the moment of his death, reliving it endlessly. Another recurring apparition is that of a soldier in a World War II-era uniform, seen wandering the ship's lower decks. Witnesses describe him as disoriented, muttering to himself about getting back to the line. Some believe he is one of the many soldiers who died aboard during the war, perhaps unaware that the conflict and his life ended decades ago. His presence is often accompanied by the smell of cigarette smoke and the faint sound of military boots marching in step. Today, the Queen Mary is a popular destination for ghost tours, with guides recounting these stories to wide-eyed visitors. But the ship's hauntings are not confined to the past. Hotel guests frequently report unsettling experiences, doors slamming shut on their own, faucets turning on in the middle of the night, and the sensation of being touched by invisible hands. One guest, staying in a first-class stateroom in 2023, claimed to see a shadowy figure standing at the foot of her bed, whispering her name before disappearing. She checked out the next morning, vowing never to return. Paranormal investigators have flocked to the ship, armed with EMF meters, thermal cameras, and spirit boxes. Their findings are chilling. Orbs of light captured in photographs, sudden drops in temperature in supposedly haunted areas, and EVPs that seem to respond intelligently to questions. One investigator, during a 2024 investigation, asked, "Who are you?" near door 13. The spirit box crackled to life with a clear, "John." The team was stunned, their equipment recording a spike in electromagnetic activity at the same moment. Skeptics, of course, argue that the Queen Mary's hauntings are nothing more than creaky pipes, overactive imaginations, and clever marketing. The ship's age, they say, accounts for the strange noises, and the power of suggestion does the rest. But even the most hardened skeptics struggle to explain the consistency of the stories, told by people who have never met, spanning decades. What makes the Queen Mary such a magnet for the supernatural? Some paranormal experts believe the ship's steel structure acts as a conductor for spiritual energy, trapping the emotions and experiences of those who lived and died aboard. Others point to the sheer volume of human suffering the ship witnessed, war, death, and tragedy on an unimaginable scale. The Queen Mary, they say, is not just haunted. It is a vessel of memory, unable to let go of the souls who left their mark on her. There are also theories about the ship's construction. Built during the Great Depression, the Queen Mary was rushed to completion, with some workers reportedly cutting corners. Rumors persist of shoddy welds and hidden defects in the ship's hull, as if the very metal was imbued with the desperation of the era. Could this flawed foundation have created a conduit for restless spirits? Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey into the heart of the Queen Mary's mysteries. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more spine-tingling stories on world mysteries. Have you ever visited the Queen Mary? Or do you have your own ghostly encounter to share? Leave it in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Unless, of course, the spirits find you first.